Okay, when you think of the greatest things ever built by human hands, there's a pretty good chance the Great Wall of China pops into your head. It's an absolute icon, right? A symbol of power and history that just stretches across our imagination. But how much of what we think we know is actually the real story? Let's find out. So let's just start with the most basic question, the one that kind of messes with the image we all have in our minds. We picture this one massive, unbroken wall snaking over mountains for thousands of miles. But is that what's really there? And the answer is a big, fat no. This is the most important thing to get. The Great Wall isn't one wall. It's a massive, sprawling defensive system, a whole network of walls, forts, and towers that were built and rebuilt by different dynasties over 2,000 years. All right, so first up, let's dive in and start busting some of the biggest myths that surround the wall. It's time to separate the hard facts from the tall tales. Okay, so we've already hit on the single wall myth, and since it was built over 2,000 years, it obviously wasn't built all at once. But what about that classic one, that you can see it from the moon? Well, that's a total myth too. Astronauts have confirmed it again and again. You can't see it from the moon, and you can't even really see it from low Earth orbit with some serious zoom. It's just way too narrow.
So if it wasn't just one big project, the why gets a lot more interesting, doesn't it? What on earth drove so many different emperors and dynasties to pour so much blood, sweat, and treasure into these walls for thousands of years?
The simple answer you always hear is to keep invaders out. And yeah, that was definitely part of it. But the reality? Oh, it was way more complicated than that. The wall was also about controlling trade, especially along the Silk Road. It was about taxing merchants, stopping their own people from leaving, and of course, it was a gigantic billboard for the emperor's power. And this really gets to the heart of what the wall was. It wasn't just a passive barrier. It was an active, breathing defense system. Watchtowers could send signals for hundreds of miles using smoke during the day and fire at night. Fortresses were packed with soldiers, ready to move at a moment's notice. The builders even used impassable mountains and rivers as part of the line. Super smart. So we've got the why, but how did they actually build this thing? I mean, the sheer logistics and engineering are just mind-boggling, especially when you remember a lot of this was done thousands of years ago. In the early days, way before the iconic stone and brick we all picture, the builders used this incredibly clever technique called tamped earth. Basically, they'd build a wooden frame, dump in a layer of whatever was around, soil, gravel, you name it, and then pound it down until it was rock solid. They'd just repeat that, layer by layer, creating these massive, super durable walls using nothing but the ground they were standing on. And you can see this evolution so clearly through the different dynasties. China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, started by connecting old walls using that tamped earth method. Then the Han Dynasty pushed it further west. But the grand, stone-faced wall we all recognize today, that's primarily the work of the Ming Dynasty. They were the ones who really mastered using bricks and stone to create the incredible fortress we see in pictures. Okay, but materials and techniques are only half the story, right? A structure this gigantic was built on the backs of millions of people. So who were they? Well, the workforce was basically a slice of the entire society. A huge chunk, about 40%, were soldiers, who had to both build and guard the frontier. But millions of peasants were also drafted, forced to leave their farms to go work on the wall. And then you had convicts and political enemies who were sentenced to brutal hard labor on the project. The human cost of this ambition, well, it was just astronomical. Get this, it's estimated that during the Qin Dynasty's initial building phase alone, as many as 1 million people died. They died from the harsh conditions, from accidents, from pure exhaustion. This immense suffering led to a pretty grim nickname for the wall among the people forced to build it. They called it the longest cemetery on Earth. It's a haunting phrase, and it's a powerful reminder that this wonder of the world was built with an unbelievable amount of human sacrifice. So, after all that, after we've deconstructed the myths, understood the reasons, the methods, and the terrible human cost, what does the Great Wall really represent to us now? What's its lasting legacy? It's just so much more than a wall. It's a powerful symbol of China's incredible endurance, but also its history of isolation. It's a stark testament to what human ambition is capable of, but also the terrible price that can come with it. It's a history book written in stone and earth, and for sure, one of the greatest engineering feats our species has ever pulled off.
Which really leaves us with this one final lingering question. When we look at this magnificent, brutal, beautiful structure, what do we see? Is it a monument to a brilliant civilization, or is it a somber testament to the price of that civilization? Maybe the real answer is that it's both, and you can't have one without the other.